RPG Book Club LongCast, the podcast where we play a little bit of a big video game and talk about how it makes us feel. I am Sam Allman.
I'm David Bernard Hauk.
And I'm tired.
Okay, then you can take a nap.
And then I will fire the missiles. Exactly. Good. I'm glad someone didn't leave me hanging on that one.
I mean, I got what you were saying, but I left you hanging.
Well, yeah, because you're a jerk.
Yep.
And today we will be discussing chapters 9 and 10, correct?
8 and 9.
8 and 9. 8 and 9 of Final Fantasy XIII. And yeah, let's, since this is our quote-unquote evergreen content, even though Maddie doesn't get to tell us about her week, unless you really want to, I'll sneak it in.
A lot of things have been going on, okay? The people need an update, okay? It's not actually, I mean, there is a lot going on. I'm not going to talk about every single bit of it. Mostly I've just been whining about trying. Okay, so fun fact about getting a new getting your legal name and gender change, which I'm finally getting around to after literally 3 years. Did you know that a literal ID, as in a driver's license, or in California a real ID, or a driver's license with a real ID marker, an ID is not a valid form of ID for purposes of getting a new ID? Yeah. It's stupid. I went through all the trouble of getting getting my Social Security card, which I have now. Hooray! Brand new Social Security card. Very happy about it. And then I'm like, cool, time to go down to the DMV to get my new ID. I got my social, got my ID, got my court order changing my name and gender, got my proof of residency, and then online, I actually did notice this. Thank goodness. So I called and asked, and they're like, "Yeah, your ID is not valid ID," and I'm like, "But it's an ID." And they're like, yeah, I think, and the person explaining this to me didn't totally know, but they were saying that because its IDs are state level, and even though I'm getting a state level ID, and I already have changed my Social Security card, in order to issue me a new state ID, they have to submit stuff to like Homeland Security. So they need something that's national level. So they need either a birth certificate or a passport. My passport is expired, and also I lost it. And my birth certificate I totally had in my hand about 3 weeks ago, and now I don't know where it is. So after all the excitement and buildup of waiting for the new Social Security card to get in the mail, and I was just so excited and happy to then find out that tomorrow morning I'm not going to be going to the DMV, but instead I'm either going to have to look even more hard for this thing, which got lost somewhere in my tiny house, or get a new birth certificate from Texas that takes like a month to get here. It's very frustrating. It's very annoying. Other than that, my life is excellent. I just realized actually that the number one most exciting thing in my life will not really be a real thing until next week. So actually it is silly that I'm talking about this now and not next week. I have a very exciting thing that Bernard knows about. I didn't tell Sam because I hate Sam. No, I didn't tell Sam because I didn't think about it. But something very exciting will be happening probably by next week or the week after that, which is cool. Other than that, man, like just it's October, baby. It's almost November. You know, it's finally fall. I love when the weather is cold, you know? It's nice. It's been drizzling all day, that sort of gloomy bullshit. It's great. Great for staying inside and playing video games all day, which is why I've been going out to organize picket support campaigns and being outside a whole lot, because it's been terrible outside.
Yeah,
also put all the Metroid Dread. We already talked about that last week.
Yeah, Metroid Dread's real good.
Nice game.
I beat it, and I agree. The lore stuff is kind of stupid. It could be, it could still be cool, but it's probably stupid. But the game is still 10 out of 10. Like it's like
it's up there. I might have to give it like 9 out of 10, but like it's really really good.
It's like the second worst of the mainline Metroid games, but all of those mainline Metroid games are fucking amazing and flawless. So it's like literally with the exception of, if you don't count remakes, because I have pretty complicated thoughts on both Zero Mission and Samus Returns. If you don't count remakes, there's only one bad Metroid game, and it's Other M. Very, very
very, very high success rate on that series. Like all bangers. Metroid 1 through 4, great. All 3 Metroid Primes, fucking great. Like, yeah, you can say this one has issues, but blanket statement, they're fucking great, okay? And Dread is great. That's what there's to say about it. Like, what a good, great series. They make one of them every fucking decade because they want to make sure they're always good, and they always are. So, great job.
I was reading about the Metroid series, and I knew they were never Nintendo's biggest thing or anything, but I was surprised to learn that as far as anyone can tell from data available, a Metroid game has never sold more than 3 million copies. Yeah. Which is insane, considering Super Metroid is one of the most influential games of all time.
They have such a cultural footprint. That's wild. Absolutely whack. Oh yeah, final thing I wanted to mention, I am feeling a little under the weather right now. It could be because I got 4 hours of sleep the last 2 nights in a row, and then was out in the literal cold, rainy, damp, drizzly weather today, working myself to the bone and being exhausted. Or it could be that I actually have a cold. I'm not really sure. So that's fun. But I'm fine. Like that's what things are tech for, you know?
Yeah. But yeah, if you're curious to what mine and Bernard's weeks are like, we're recording a Kaseki on Sunday, so you can go and listen to that. You also can listen to some kick-ass Final Fantasy XIII music that we'll be listening to before we jump in and talk about the plot. Bernard, take it away.
So, Saz and Vanille enter Nautilus, the crowded entertainment capital of Cocoon. They see that a Eidolon parade is being paraded and decide to check it out. But before they can, a news update on the events in Palamecia plays. It does that really annoying thing where it uses movie footage, even though it looks nothing like surveillance or news footage. I hate that so much.
It's silly when things do that.
Anyway, Vanille sees Fang. The passersby viewing the report expressed the opinion that the army should just blow up the Litzy, whatever the civilian casualties. Wow.
Yeah.
Saz tells Vanille to cheer up as they head to the parade. Vanille voiceovers that she knew they'd be saying goodbye soon. Better to do it with a smile. They get to the Pompa Sancta parade, a pageant commemorating the war between Cocoon and Pulse. Lots of graphics happen.
Graphics.
Yes. They depict a good Litzy and an evil Litzy fighting with their Eidolons. Somewhere in the graphics is something that makes Vanille remember Ragnarok. After the parade, Vanille tries to put on a smile, but she's still feeling down. Saz says they need to forget the heavy stuff for a while, and maybe their brands will just fade away. They head to the amusement park together. Saz says he promised... What?
Me on Twitter. Maybe my brand will just fade away.
Saz says he promised Dodge he'd take him to the amusement park, but maybe he can at least tell him about it, since he does know where they're keeping him. He asks Vanille if she has someone special out there too. Vanille the homosexual lies and says no.
Okay, so at this point I wrote in my notes in all caps, lesbians. Here's the thing. Okay, if someone asked you if you have someone special out there and it's your friend, you would say, yes, I have this friend. The fact that she lies and doesn't mention her means it's lesbians.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why would you lie about that? You know why.
Because lesbians.
Because lesbians.
There you go.
She voiceovers that she couldn't tell him everything until the time was right. They go and see a bunch of chocobos. Saz says Dodge is crazy about chocobos, and now he can tell him about seeing them. He says Dodge is being held by SciComm, who are running tests to figure out his focus. Saz says he's turning himself in. Saz the Fool says they're not total monsters, and will have to listen to his final request. I'm like, no, Saz, that's not how this works.
No.
He wants to talk to Dodge one last time. Vanille does not like this idea. Saz apologizes and says he's tired of all this running. Vanille's like, but Dodge is a lessee because of someone from Pulse. You can't give up without getting revenge. See, she says she knows who's responsible for the accident at Uriday. The lessee who ruined your life was... ... The
Krabby Patty secret formula is...
But soldiers appear. Saz and Vanille run away and fight a boss. After the boss fight, Dodge runs up, and the scene feels really weird and surreal. I love it.
It definitely feels like it's like, is this a vision? Is this an illusion? But it's not. Dodge just is there now. It's very strange.
Yeah. Dodge hugs Saz and says he found him. Before Saz can process what's going on, Dodge fucking turns into a crystal.
God damn it.
Saz freaks out, understandably. As the hot lady from SciComm and some soldiers walk up. Are you going to be okay?
She's really hot.
She is.
She's real hot.
She's a hot and a half.
Yes. And her name is Nabat.
Yes. Also, she's very hot, but also her undershirt seems incredibly uncomfortable because it looks like it's leather, but it's also like sculpted around her boobles. Which
it's weird.
It's weird, and I can't imagine that would be comfortable to like have a leather pocket you put each of your boobles in as you walk around being a JRPG villain.
Yeah, that does not sound comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for a second it's like, is her chest area for some reason like much darker skin than the rest of her body? Oh no, that's just her weird skin tight thing. Yeah, it's odd. It's another character does that. Riku in FF10. Before she unzips her outfit.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when you first meet her, she has like this full like body like weird orange wetsuit, and you're like, is that her skin?
Yeah.
Yeah. Boob pockets in animated stuff, it's always weird. But anyway.
Still would.
What?
Still would.
Yeah. Nabat says the capture of undesirables was Dodge's focus. She says that Dodge's ability to sense power from Pulse allowed them to monitor the lessee. She tosses some vague technology at Saz, which displays a projection of cinematically shot surveillance footage from Uriday, which shows the Pulse lessee responsible for the incident. In the footage, Fang tells Vanille they should smash the fal'Cie. Then Dodge walks up behind them. The fal'Cie glows and a brand appears on his hand. So actually, I was right, and y'all were wrong. They specifically did not make Dodge a lessee. The fal'Cie did. The fal'Cie did in response to their actions.
Yep. The fal'Cie was like, oh no, there's some Pulse lessee here to own me. I better make my own lessee to own them back.
And who's available? This 6-year-old kid.
Yep.
Yeah. So her admitting to it last week, or Fang admitting to it last week, was they felt responsible more than they actually did it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Nabat says the very girl Saz is protecting is the one responsible for the attack that caused the fal'Cie to turn Dodge into a lessee. She's the one who stole his son. Vanille runs away. Soldiers take aim, but Nabat tells them to hold their fire. She asks Saz if he'd prefer to finish the job. He runs after Vanille. Nabat and the soldiers follow at a distance. Now, here we get another weird scene. I thought the last weird scene worked amazingly. This scene, I'm not so sure about. Because Vanille runs up to some sort of throne, and a vision of Saz appears on it, telling her how she's evil and a coward and a killer and tired of living with guilt, then die with it, and shoots her, and then disappears. And that's not explained as being like some Lassie, Falsy technology magic thing.
It just was a thing that happened.
And also, you kind of think they're doing the thing where it's like, oh no, Saz is so mad at Vanille because of, you know, what she did, and he hates her and wants to kill her in revenge. And then it's like a common trope, right, is that when like a character who feels guilt about something thinks that the other person hates them, and then maybe even has a vision where they hate them, and then it turns out, oh no, they don't actually, right? But the problem is she has this vision, I guess, because of her guilt, but then actual Saz shows up and it's the same. He feels the same way. So
he's just not as mean about it.
Yeah, he's not as mean about it, but it's just like, it's not doing the thing where she's thinking the wrong thing. It's just like, yeah, this scene that comes after this, I think is fucking awesome, but this part made me go, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it was completely unnecessary. You could take it out and everything would work fine.
Yeah.
But anyway, after that weird scene, the real Saz runs up and points his gun at Vanille. She tells him her name is Erba Dia Vanille, and she's a Lassie from Grand Pulse. And to everyone on Cocoon, evil. She opens her arms and tells him to shoot her for his son. Saz is like, you think that's it? You think you die and everything will be sugar and rainbows? Vanille asks, if she can't live and she can't die, what can she do? How can she make this right? Neither of them know. Saz says it's over. There's nothing to do. Shooting her won't help. Neither will living. Saz's brand glows. An eidolon appears. Vanille runs to shield him from it and says it's not over. Saz stands to fight. They fight the eidolon Brynhildr. It's hard.
Yeah.
I tried a few times and I ended up only winning when I used an Aegisol and a Fortisol before the cutscene.
Oh man, see, I always sell my Aegisols and Fortisols because they're good money, so I never can do that.
I had 33 Doom ticks left when I beat it. It was like 5 seconds away from me just dying.
I think the time I finally beat it, I did just fine. But it took me like 4 tries. I can't remember what the kicker was, like what the real issue I was having was. Because it wasn't just like it's hard. Like there was a certain like strategic thing I had to like think about, right? What did this boss do? Do y'all remember?
So this one, you got Gestalt for building up your chain as usual, but also for buffing your party. And so
I never thought of
that. And so all I did is I made my my paradigm that I started with, my buffing one. So I got a couple of those, and then just prayed and kept trying to get a big ass chain.
That is part of it. Is making sure that your starter paradigm is the one that you want to start with, right? Like changing that instead of going with the default. Weirdly enough, that couple of seconds can make a big deal.
Yeah. For one thing, I had not unlocked haste on Saz. I think if I had, that would have helped me a lot. Anyway, I'm impressed you beat it without haste, because I couldn't beat it without haste.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly, but it was. I've been low level in it too. I wish I remember there was some trick to it. I think I made a lot. I made a lot of use of potions. A lot of use of potions because that allowed me to keep the aggressive pressure on without having to switch back into like heal zone. That was part of it. But another, it was just being fast. Like the thing is, a lot of the time in this game, it's pretty clear what you have to do. It's just that you have to be able to react very quickly to a situation. So it's like, oftentimes the issue is literally just like, oh, I didn't need to stay in heal mode that long. I definitely could have switched back to attacking earlier. Or, I waited too long to go into heal mode and got hit. Or, that actually would have been a good window to do some buffs, right? So it's more just like being able to very acutely pay attention to the current situation and not miss the right sort of the golden moment to give the different orders that you need to give. So it's like very subtle, the difference between success and failure. I also I did something with the way that I do my buffs and debuffs here. I forget what it is. Maybe it was that I separated them out, or I wasn't doing them both at once. I just did like attack and buff, and then like attack and debuff as like separate concepts, maybe. That way I can keep up the pressure. I don't know. I have a lot of memories of the next big boss, but I don't remember this one too well.
Yeah, the thing that got it for me in the end is playing a little more aggressively and less heal when you think you're about to die, as I had a lot of clutch heals at like double digit health, because the higher your percentage of your chain attack, the more of their assault meter fills. So if you're doing dual casting the whole time, but your pace is not all the way up because you're healing more often, then you won't be getting as much of a bonus from it. But if you keep pushing, those higher ones knock off bigger and bigger chunks. So that's how I ended up doing it.
Yep. Something else I learned, not here, because now that these characters are strong commanders, but a little later I learned that whenever you break something, your initial thought is, I'm going to switch to like commando, Ravager, because the commandos, you do more damage when you're in commando, right? Like Ravager is for raising up their break to break them, and then you hit them with commando. But getting that percentage multiplier up really counts a lot. So it got to the point where it's like, if I just broke the enemy, I'm going to spend the first like third of its break meter with everyone on Ravager to just continue raising its percentage. And then once it hits like 700% or something, then I switch to dealing damage. And if I notice that, at first I'd be behind, like at first, like the amount of damage I'd done to the enemy versus its how much break I had left would be lagging behind. But because I did so much percentage, it would then like catch up, right? Like an acceleration sort of thing. Again, all about these really subtle timings. Like at what point exactly do you switch from Ravager to Commando, Ravager, right?
Yeah, like the more time I spend with this game, the worse of a choose fight from a menu Final Fantasy battle system is it, and the better of a completely different like dance of a game that only kind of even looks like a Final Fantasy game is it. Like it's all about the timings and all of that stuff, and it's way less about your stats and all of that jazz. I gotta say, I feel like I might hate this game, or at least like it a lot less, if I was fighting every single battle, because the battles do take forever. Yeah, I thankfully grinded too much last week, so now that I can pick my own party at the end of this week, my main people are real fucking strong, and so random battles don't take me very long. But in this chapter, the fucking lizards with the big old plates like that, every time I hit one of those, it was like a 15 fucking minute ordeal, because it feels sucks.
Me, remember how on level 3 of Halo 1 Truth and Reconciliation, mostly a great level, but there's certain parts where it's like, hey, now you're in the bottom floor of this hangar, and hey, there's some enemies. Oh, you killed them? Okay. Now the doors are going to open up, and another wave of enemies are going to happen. Okay, you killed them? Now the doors are going to open up, and another wave of enemies are going to happen. You're like, buddy, this level's already big enough. Each zone doesn't have to have 4 different battles, right? I feel like this game would be like, if I was doing every battle, it'd be like, okay, like way too much battle per rest of the game content here. But whereas the way I'm playing it, this dungeon with Saz and Vanille, first of all, it's very short. Second of all, I only fought 2 battles or 3, but all of them were because those enemies were guarding a chest, and I wanted the chest. It's funny, I'm doing a low-level run, but I am getting every treasure chest, because it's like, low level, but I have all the good equipment, so I can, like, think about it, use my brain and stuff like that. If it wasn't for that, I would have fought 0 battles. It would have literally just been cutscenes, running down a hallway, and a boss, which, honestly, that's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, eventually we beat Brynhildr, and it turns into a muscle car, and Saz jumps in and starts doing donuts minutes after his son's death. After the fight, Saz again points his gun at Vanille. She opens her arms. He says a lot of things can be excused, but shooting kids ain't one. At this point, I'm wondering why Vanille does not tell Saz you can get uncrystalled. Instead, she cries. Saz puts his gun to his head. Enough is enough. He pulls the trigger. We see Saz's body being carried out in a floating coffin, along with SciComm soldiers escorting Vanille. Nabat tells the soldiers to be careful with them, and says for every task, there is a perfect tool. So Saz is fucking dead, and definitely not coming back.
He fucking died. He literally died. There's no equivocation about it. You hear him pull the trigger, and later you see him in a coffin. And why would he be in a coffin? And Vanille is wearing like a weird like mourning robe if he, wasn't dead. Yeah, holy moly.
Never mind the fact that the opening attract mode cutscene shows events involving Saz that have not happened yet.
Also, never mind
that. Those must be Final Fantasy XIII Gaiden.
Yeah. But I will say, like, if we stop playing this game right at this point, like, Saz would be dead. We're not joking here. Like, the game doesn't do any hedging or anything. I mean, yeah, you don't see him shoot himself. It cuts, right? But the visual language is very much like when it first cuts away, that happens a lot. You hear a gunshot. Oh, they didn't actually die. But then when he comes out in the coffin, it's like, well, that's what you do. And I mean, Vanille's not in a coffin, right? Like coffin isn't just what they used to have. It's not like you have coffin-shaped holding pins for prisoners, right? It's not like, cop goes to arrest someone and he goes, hey, put on these handcuffs. Okay, now get in the fucking coffin, right? That's not how, like, Vanille's just standing there. So, yeah, he's dead. Yeah.
Yeah. Rip. F's in chat for Saz.
Anyway, in the literal next cutscene, the TV is like, the bad guys caught 2 prisoners.
Actually, I think it just says it's a prison for the l'Cie apprehended in Nautilus, and l'Cie could be plural or singular.
Okay, I do know that I think that there is literally like a misunderstanding between some of the writers of this game, because at one point, very shortly after, someone uses a plural where it's like, wait, how do they have somehow become aware, or rather perhaps were never tricked to begin with, about Saz being dead?
Well, at one point, Lightning does say, we're here for Vanille and Saz. So apparently she never found out he died.
Yeah, it's silly. Yeah, it doesn't actually feel like the characters learned off screen that Saz wasn't dead. It really feels like more like we, the player, are the only ones who think he was.
Yeah.
We got gaslit.
Yep. Except he is really dead.
Yes, of course.
So we see a giant airship flying. This airship is not the Lindblom, but the Palamecia, pride of the Sanctum Skyfleet. A reporter's voice says this flagship serves as a prison for the l'Cie apprehended in Nautilus. Now we see inside the Lindblom. The gang is watching the news report. It says the l'Cie will be sentenced upon the convoy's arrival in the capital. The report also says that the Primarch himself is aboard the Palamecia. It's bait. Snow doesn't care. They board a vessel for the Palamecia. Rigdea gets them on board, but they're spotted immediately. They fight their way through the ship. We see Vanille in the brig with Saz? Question mark?
Oh, he's alive!
Flashback to him holding the gun to his head. He pulls the trigger, but only after aiming the gun away from his head slightly. So he just deafens himself in one ear.
Yes. He gave himself tinnitus.
Yes. He couldn't do it. He collapses, sobbing because he has nothing to live for, but there's nothing else he can bring himself to do. Psycom surrounds and restrains them. Nabat tells Saz he should be proud of his son, the boy who saved Cocoon. They'll erect a monument to him in Eden and put his crystal on display. Saz struggles and Nabat knocks him out. So that's why he was in the coffin stretcher thing. It was all a big goof by the writers. They totally got us.
They got us.
Now, why was Vanille dressed like someone in mourning?
She was dressed like that because that's the same robes they put on the people being purged.
Yeah. It's prisoner outfit.
All right. That's fine. The FMVs gave it a different vibe, but yeah, it's silly. And also, she wasn't even like in handcuffs. I guess she was just coming along quietly.
I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
Back in the brig, Saz says that since Vanille woke up, maybe Dodge will too. And I'm like, oh, so Vanille finally thought it was appropriate to tell Saz that you can get uncrystalled? Not before the suicide attempt?
Yep.
Vanille explains that she was made into a l'Cie to fight Cocoon hundreds of years ago. They finished their focus and fell into a long crystal sleep. Day 1, Bodum, the Pulse Fal'Cie vestige. We see Vanille go from crystal to human. She's naked. Clothes appear around her, magical girl style. She sees Fang on the ground. She voiceovers that they'd awoken on Cocoon to a new focus. Fang had forgotten everything. As for Vanille, the thought of hurting people again was too much. So she said she lost her memory too. She tried to run from her fate as a l'Cie. The gang fights through some more soldiers, and we cut back to Vanille and Saz again. Some soldiers come in and tell them they're being moved. They take out the soldiers and take their assault rifles. But then they decide a pair of pistols and a weird rod would be more effective than assault rifles, so they find their old weapons. Vanille's feeling down on herself, but Saz encourages her to stay positive. A whole bunch of escaping and fighting happens, and I'm talking a lot. There were so many cutscenes where I was like, does anything important happen here? Nope.
Yeah, unlike last week, we're kind of back to the old vibe of not a lot happening. The both of these chapters, I would say, have almost the same amount of actual plot in them, except one of the chapters is like an hour long, and the other one is like 4 hours long.
Yeah,
every cutscene.
I love this chapter.
Yeah, it was very enjoyable, but like every cutscene was like, let's go get them. Or someone does a cool punch, or the two different groups of heroes meet up with each other and say, yeah, let's go get them.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway.
Lots of great graphics.
Eventually, the gang ends up fighting monsters on the outside of the airship, which seems very dangerous. They beat a boss, and then they run into Saz and Vanille. Before Fang and Vanille can totally make out, another boss attacks. They beat the boss. Vanille and Fang embrace. Vanille grabs Fang's boob, and so you know I'm not lying. I have a screenshot for you.
I must have missed that.
Okay, there we go.
What?
Yeah, that's
like they're just hugging, but no, she has to do a cop. Yeah. It's kind of a weird side feel, though. It's like pushing the side of the boob.
It's just so that her thumb has full access to the nip area.
That's true. It's not quite. So it's a little bit misplaced. It's a little bit to the right. But yeah, it's like, you know what? We can't see her other hand. Maybe she's doing a squeeze.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
Like
look at lightning in the background. We gotta like put this in the show notes or something so that people can see what we're fucking laughing at. Yeah, lightning is literally just like has her hands on her hips. It's like it's like Vanille, I consent. Fong, I consent. Is there someone you forgot to ask? Lightning in the background. Holy shit. That's so fucking funny. I'm sending this to my girlfriend while y'all continue to talk.
Anyway, so Vanille grabs Fang's boob. Then Fang kneels down and lifts up Vanille's skirt.
Yep.
To look at her brand. Fang says Vanille still has time. Vanille says there's something she needs to tell Fang, but Fang says they'll talk later. Saz asks what's on the agenda. Snow says, toppling the sanctum. Saz says, no, I mean really. Lightning says they really are going to take down the sanctum and give Cocoon back to the people. The fal'Cie have called the shots for long enough. And is it just me, or did they all decide to definitely take down the sanctum sort of off screen?
They decided it in a data log. So I didn't read the data logs this week. I apologize once again. I just got busy and forgot. Totally could have. But I did stop playing in between chapter 8 and 9. Like, after I got to the Luna at the end of chapter 8, I saved. So when I got to chapter 9, I got the little recap data log, right? And in the recap data log, setting up chapter 9, it's like our heroes head to the Palamecium, and they're gonna or maybe it wasn't the beginning, maybe it was after like the cutscene where they say let's go get them, right? But after the cutscene where they say let's go get them, the dialogue is like they're gonna go there, and they've all realized that that the l'Cie and that the fal'Cie are and the Sanctum have been tricking the populace and getting them all in a tizzy. And what they're going to do is reveal to everybody that they've been used, and that they're no more than pets for the fal'Cie and for the Sanctum. And that after that, then the people will rise up against, and then they'll have a revolution. Everyone will be free. And I'm like, that's not. No, I just saw the cutscene. They all said, "Let's go save our friends." That's what they said. Fuck those guys. Let's go save our friends. Or at least at the they definitely said let's go save our friends. They may have also implied let's go get their asses. But at no point do they say anything about like we're going to show the world what's really going on so that the society will rise up. That at no point is that said, except it is in the data log. Also, just throwing it out there. That's bullshit. That's not how society works.
Yeah,
we've all seen Sorry to Bother You, right?
Yeah, it's not going to work at all.
It's not how it's. I know it's one of the most common tropes of all. Is like, yeah, if we reveal the fact that the bad guys are doing a bad thing, then it'll stop. Because everyone will be so upset by it. But the movie Sorry to Bother You brilliantly has this, where 2/3 of the way through, the hero reveals that the evil corporation is doing this really horrible thing on TV, and then the next scene shows how that horrible thing has now been completely normalized, and people have just adopted it into the way that their life is. And it's like, yeah, that's a lot more realistic. Whatever, that's besides the point. A million medias do this. But the thing is, it's not that the game is doing it, it's that it wasn't doing it, according to the cutscenes and the dialogue. But yeah, I guess now that's the idea, is that we're not just trying to get them because we don't like being fal'Cie, but we've actually decided that the government's bad, and we're that they've. It's very weird.
Anyway, I'm sending y'all another picture in chat because I just noticed that Snow's reaction to the scene we discussed earlier is great.
He's like, yeah.
Anyway, where the fuck were we?
Actually, hold on. He's not saying yeah what do you call it? Like a leering, like perv, like, yeah, I'm a cishet guy, yeah, lesbian. He's more just like, good for them. That's right.
He's a proud dad.
Anyway, yeah. So more flying monsters appear. Fang and Vanille work together to capture one, and the gang hops on. An owl, which is probably not what it seems, watches. The gang flies on the monster. It looks very dangerous. Time to purge a primarch.
Is hanging off the back the whole time. He's like barely hanging on with his arms. I'm like, don't I make sure that Saz was fully on the dragon before it's flying off?
Yeah, I feel bad for him. So Snow yells, time to purge a primarch. They leap down back onto the Palamecia. The gang poses as a team because shit just got real and it's time to kill the Pope. They reach the bridge and Nabat tells the Pope that she'll cover his escape. He tells her to take her leave, as humans have no business here. He shoots her with a bolt of magic. He floats and shoots magic at all the other crew members on the bridge. Snow yells at the Pope that people are not his to use. "What else does one do with tools?" the Pope asks. Snow tries to punch the Pope, but gets blown back by a barrier. The Pope says,
this is always happening to me. Also, hold on.
Every time you go to punch the Pope, it keeps happening.
I actually want to read the data log in question. I did go ahead and look it up just now in the Final Fantasy wiki. Listen to this. Listen to this and think about how much of this was in the cutscene where the heroes said, "Let's go save our friends." The ease with which the Lassie slip aboard the Palamecia is, as they had anticipated, simply a part of the plan to lure them into a trap. They make it on to the Skyfleet flagship with the help of the cavalry, only to be greeted by a squad of Psycom soldiers as soon as their feet hit the deck. The Lassie do not back down. This is more than just a rescue attempt. It is a battle that could affect the future of Cocoon. The Primarch heads the forces aboard the Palamecia. If they can capture Daisley and force him to reveal the fal'Cie schemes, it may be enough to liberate Cocoon from the Sanctum's tyranny and free the hearts and minds of her people. If they can prove how the government has manipulated its citizens into hating Pulse and changed the way people feel, then maybe the Lassie can find a place in Cocoon's society and some hope for the future.
If only Stephen Colbert would make a really cutting joke about how bad Daisley is.
Citation needed. If only they called they thought of a scathing epithet for Daisley. If they called him the I don't know. There's they called him gallant. Hold on. Just gallant. You know what? Turns out his real name was Gallant Drumpf. Got him. Got him. He'll fucking he's done.
So like earlier when you were like they never said that, I was like, I vaguely remember something at the end of last chapter of them like, oh, we have to, even though it's stupid, we're going to take him down, but it definitely was not 99.8% of what Maddie said.
Yeah, they did say let's get his ass, but they definitely didn't say we're going to capture him. No point did they say that. No point did they say let's reveal to the population what's going on. At no point have they said that they're trying to make it where Lassie can find a place in Cocoon's society. That's not a thing that they've mentioned. Like, it's really, really funny.
Yeah. So the Pope says Cocoon is a factory built by fal'Cie, a factory for the mass production of human thralls. Snow says, not anymore, it's not. The Pope muses about how the masses can't do anything on their own, and were thrown into panic by a few Lassie. Lightning is like, if only they knew a Lassie was filling their glasses. I'm like, that's an odd turn of phrase. I get what you mean, but it's an odd turn of phrase.
Yeah.
And the Pope was like, no, I'm more than that. The owl from before flies into his staff, and he transforms into a fal'Cie. He says his name is Bartandalus, voice of the Sanctum and Lord Sovereign of the Cocoon fal'Cie. Your kind feared the darkness, so we gave you light. You begged us for the purge, and did it not come to pass? Now you spurn our counsel. You must learn your place. The gang fights a fal'Cie and wins.
Eventually. How did this fight go for y'all?
Wasn't too bad.
It took me 2 tries, and I used a Fortisol both times. I would have won the first one. I just miscalculated if I could tank something or not. It's like I chose to not switch over to heal because I had 80% health, and then I got riggedy wrecked in one hit.
So neither of y'all had to deal with his insanely crazy attack?
He had some insanely crazy attacks.
He had some super insanely crazy attacks.
We're just not underleveled.
Yeah.
No. There's a specific attack that, for me, if you don't know the trick to it, insta-wipes my entire party. Did y'all not have to deal with that?
I just talked about that one. It insta-wipes insta-wiped me unless I was at 100% full health.
But if you're 100%, it didn't.
Yeah, you are way underleveled than us.
No, I know. Yeah. I was trying to see just how bad that attack is, because there's a trick to it that y'all don't know.
I know it. I just hadn't gotten that far yet. I'd barely got a sentence out before you started telling me what I was saying.
Oh, okay. Sorry. You said you just needed more health to survive it, not found the trick.
That time that I died, I was like, oh, I've got him down enough. I can take this hit, and I didn't. The trick is if you do enough damage, you do. It's like 10,000 damage within 15 seconds, and then 20,000 damage in the next 15 seconds. It comes out at like tiny, and it was one of the ones where I spent most of the time healing because I was really dead, and I gave up on healing a little bit too early.
Gotcha. No, that's what I was curious about, because you were saying that infired me because I was underleveled, but actually it infired me because I didn't know the trick to it.
Yeah.
It also would have insta-wiped you.
Well, no, I could tank the full hit if I had 100% health.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. I just want to talk about the cool attack, and because y'all have higher levels than me, I wasn't sure if I actually had to deal with it.
Yeah.
So I had to deal with it.
Absolutely.
It's a really weird attack. It's this crazy attack that's a super long charge up, and it once it hits, it just you're just dead. But it's not all at once. Once
he starts charging it kicks him out of stagger too, which happened to me every single time I got him to stagger.
Actually, the worst part about it. That's actually the worst part about it that I really hate. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It totally owned me. And my first thought was, oh god, am I just gonna have to go grind because I can't try this attack? This sucks. But then it turned out I looked on the internet, looked at a guide. I just thought, you know what? I just want to know if there's a trick to it. I don't have time for this. It turns out, basically, when he's charging, if you hit the bejesus out of him, it kind of knocks him. Now, Sam says you can hit him twice. I didn't know about that. I just thought you had to do it once. And if you knock him a whole bunch, then he still hits the bejangles out of you, but not enough to kill you. For me, I had to be at, not exactly full health, but I had to be at pretty high health, and I had to have protect. I had to have my buffs up in order to survive it and knock him. So it was really tricky because you don't have enough time to do all three of those things. If he starts charging his move and you're not buffed, you don't have time to buff yourself and hit him. You can't do both. So I had to make sure that I was buffed like before he went into it. It was really interesting and cool. And it's also kind of bullshit that he has an attack that hits you so hard that it could theoretically just wipe your entire party instantly, and the trick to it is something that isn't really said in any kind of way. Don't really like that. Like, there's no other point in the game where hitting the enemy a whole bunch makes them do that. That's weird.
Except for like the concept of stagger in general, but it specifically takes off the stagger here.
Yeah, so. It's not about stagger. Yeah, it's not like, oh, you gotta stagger him. It's, no, you just, if you deal enough damage, it will knock the juice out of him, basically. But then you had the third thing, which was like, all right, I'm about to stagger him, but he hasn't done that strong a trial, and I kind of feel like if I stagger him, he's just gonna go into his attack in like 5 fucking seconds. So eventually I would just like hold off on staggering him until he started charging it, and then I'm like, all right, now I'm gonna stagger him. Anyway, it's a really interesting fight. What ended up happening was I did end up blowing all of my money and selling a lot of my good items and ignoring all my other party members just to pump up these guys because the second or third or fourth time I tried the fight, I did manage to knock him, but because I wasn't great about my buffs and my health, it still killed me, but just barely. So I was like, maybe I give myself an edge here. So I pumped everything into Lightning's like silver bracelet or whatever that gave her 300 extra hit points. So now instead of giving her 300, it gives her 360. So just 60 extra HP costs like a gazillion gil to get enough items to do that. And then I also pumped up her thing that raises her magic defense by 10% to make it raise it by like 11% or something. Just that tiny little edge. And again, I went through my entire inventory. I said, fuck all my other party members. I'm just buffing lightning so that she can survive this attack. And then on the next fight, I played it well enough that I didn't end up needing it. I didn't end up needing the extra health because I managed to control my party properly. But whatever. It was fun. We have a good time, folks.
Yeah, so I'm glad that I also look it up, because the thing that I was going to try when I did look it up, they were like, "Don't do this." So the big head doesn't attack; it only buffs its shoulders and pauldrons
until those are dead.
Until those are dead. So I was like, the trick is you pick the one that you have resistance to from your item. So I had enough ember stuff for everyone. I'll leave the fire guy alive, and so that I could focus on the head and tank the fire hits, and that'll be fine. But if you knock the main head down to 60% health, he starts doing all of his stuff anyways. And then you just have him doing his big ass things with the shoulders on, which sounds like a nightmare. That would have sucked really bad.
The funny thing is that I never even thought about that, because, man, I'm dumb. Because here's the thing: even with all 4 of them alive, honestly, beating the head, if it didn't do the thing that you're talking about, beating the head with all 4 of its buddies alive would have been easier.
Yeah,
because his buddies weren't that dangerous; they weren't hurting me that much. So if I'd had half of a brain, I would have just been like, "Oh, the typical JRPG thing of kill all 4 of the buddies before attacking the main guy. Just reverse it. Ignore the buddies, attack the main guy, because he's easier in that phase. The bad buddies aren't that big of a threat to me, even at my low level. That was the case. But the fact that I didn't even think about doing that shows that you're smarter than me. So.
So yeah, eventually we beat the Pope, but then he appears again, as the Pope again this time. He says the gang did not fight to win. He says we should know quite well already the way of dispatching Fal'Cie. Ragnarok. Finally, Fang asks the question that's on everybody's mind. What the fuck is Ragnarok? Her brand starts hurting. The Pope says Ragnarok is the beast one of us must become in order to lay waste to Cocoon. He says one among you will become that monstrosity, defeat Orphan, and destroy Cocoon. Orphan is the font of Eden's power. It fuels Eden's strength, and Eden in turn sustains you and the rest of our kind. Destroy Orphan, and you'll release a force such as this world has never seen. Cocoon will be torn asunder. He tells Fang that if they do that, their focus will be fulfilled. Snow says that Sarah told them to save Cocoon, and that's what they're gonna do, dang it. The Pope says the moment the gang arrived, Sarah wept crystal tears because her focus required they be brought together. That girl did nothing but assemble the tools of Cocoon's destruction. As the Palamecia starts to go down, the Pope levitates and disappears, as popes are wont to do, telling us to run and see how stark reality is. The owl from before turns into a ship. Okay. The gang hops on and tries to fly away, but it's not working. As they fall, another vessel flies up and shoots at them. It's Roche.
He's not dead.
Yeah, he's alive. The ship starts flying and fighting on its own. The Lassie's ship passes through a shield covering the city, but Roche's ship bounces off it. They're about to crash into a building, but something activates on the ship, and it fucking disappears. The end.
Right. The end.
Yep, that's it. So, okay, I may have missed this, but wasn't Daisley basically saying, yeah, your job is to turn into a monster and murder me, so good job, go for it?
I think, yes, I think it was sort of like in a mocking way.
Okay, but where did that ship come from? Because I feel like that was Daisley's ship.
Yeah, Daisley Daisley's owl turned into the ship, and they were like, later, when the ship wasn't working, they were like, yeah, I knew this was a trap. So, yeah, I do think Daisley gave them the ship, and he did tell them to run and see how stark reality is.
Okay. Maybe he was doing a mockery. I read it as, like, this guy you're trying to kill, first of all, is explaining the plot of the game to you, which, if you're a villain and you don't want the heroes to kill you, you shouldn't explain. Like, at this point, they had literally no idea how to kill him. They had no idea what Ragnarok was, and he's like, oh, fine, I'll fucking tell you. That way you can do it, right? But it seemed to me like he was like, yeah, like, you should go do this. I'm telling you what your goal is, which puts you in a weird position of like, wait, why is he wanting us to do this? But if what you're saying is true, then maybe he was just doing like a villainous sarcasm, like, ha ha ha, I'll tell you what you can do, that way I can defeat you anyway. That's a lot more simplistic. And maybe that's actually what's going on. Not how I read it, though. Not at all.
I sort of read it as he knew that this explanation would upset us.
Mm-hmm. I guess that makes sense, because it's like, in order to defeat me, you're also destroying Cocoon, which you don't want to do.
Yeah, and you have to turn into Ragnarok.
I'm very interested to see if the characters discuss what I consider either way to be a very complicated and interesting little contradictory bind they're in, or if they just go, let's go, gang. Friendship.
Friendship. I know which way I would bet.
Yeah, me too. And that's why I brought this up. I'm like, oh, this brings up a lot of questions that probably are not going to be addressed.
But yeah, let's listen to that other song that Maddie can't remember, and then we'll talk about our memorable moments. Maddie, do you have any memoirs?
Just a couple. Me writing lesbians in all caps. Early on, I thought it was really cute. I was going around talking to NPCs. Man, talking to NPCs just doesn't work in this game. It's not fun.
It's hard. It's hard enough to walk up to them.
Well, even if it's not being that hard, it's just like, I don't know, walking into the general vicinity of someone and hearing some lines happen doesn't have that same pop as just going up and hitting A. It's not as good. It's not a replacement for it.
And weirdly enough, when you're on the Lindblom later, you walk up to your party members and press A to talk to them.
Oh yeah, that's right. You do that sometimes. So yeah, I was listening to some of the NPCs, since there's a few of them in this game, and most of them were boring. But one of them was like a kid and his mom, and the kid's like, I want to go to the Fiend Lord's Keep. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I like that little bit of flavor. Like, oh, this is like a giant theme park, amusement park, and there's a place called the Fiend Lord's Keep. And they're doing that thing that a lot of modern Final Fantasy games do, where it's like, anytime a Final Fantasy game is set in more of like a science fictional world, they reference FF fantasy type stuff by making it like fiction in the story, right? Uh-huh. Which is cute. Like how like FF15 would be like, would have like or I forget, yeah, FF15, maybe others would be like, oh, this is like Behemoth brand soda or something like that, right? And it's like, oh, that's funny. This stuff doesn't actually fit in this world anymore, so it is now fictional within the world, but it's still there. That's cute. Anyway, it turns out, though, that the part where the big final confrontation where Saz shoots himself and stuff, and then you have the fight with the whatever, that actually is the Fiend Lord's Keep. So what I thought was a cute bit of not directly relevant world building was actually just foreshadowing where you're going to go later. I mean, it's still fictional. You're in like Disney World, right? But it's cool that that's the Fiend Lord's Keep, is all I'm saying. Second of all, I was just really struck by Saz's dignity in this chapter, in chapter 8. I had no comments on chapter 9. I enjoyed it. I didn't have any comments on it. In chapter 8, though, the fact that, like, he's the last character to really reveal what his fucking deal is. Well, no, Vanille is, but whatever. But she'd been being coy the whole time, so it makes
He's the last good character to reveal what his deal is.
He's the last character to reveal what his deal is who wasn't, like, very intentionally concealing his deal, right? We just hadn't gotten around to it, I feel like. Anyway, though, when he reveals the scene where he's just like, I'm gonna turn myself in. Literally the only thing I want is to see my boy again. That's been his motivation this entire time. We just haven't known what it is, you know? And when you think about the way that he acts and the way that he's been this whole time and the way that he and Vanille, he literally like has like a fun friendship, maybe father figure, slight daughter figure date at this amusement park, literally as like, this is the last thing I'm going to do before I turn myself in, right? To give her this little happy day, to give himself this little happy day. He has known his goal the entire time, and he's just been sort of steadfastly like steeling himself, basically, and going towards it. And more than any other character, he knows what he wants. And I think it's really, really cool. I really was struck by again the dignity by which he intends to die, basically. Now he's not like that anymore, because then his world is rocked and the calculations that formed his goals no longer apply. And we see the wonderful scene where Vanille says, dude, like, what the fuck am I supposed to do to make this right? And he goes, I don't know. That's the main theme of this fucking game. This is the latest in a long line of cutscenes where characters just vocally yell, I don't know what we're supposed to be doing right now, which is really, really cool. A breaking down and then reconstruction, right, of the self, of desire. Really loved it. I thought it was just fucking great. And then maybe Bernard mentioned this, but maybe you didn't. Did you mention the fact that Vanille has been lying to what's her name?
Fang? Yes.
Fang? You did? Oh, okay. I was just face out, sorry. That's really, really interesting. That's a really, really cool little thing. That you have these two characters who, like, Fong has no idea what's going on any more than anyone else does, which is really cool. She has this link to the far, far, far past. She's probably deeply involved in whatever the lore of this game is, and yet, vis-a-vis what the fuck is going on right now, she has no clue. She has no clue. Also, she's not from Cocoon, so she has no fucking clue. You know, back when she lived on Pulse 1,000 years ago or whatever, and then fought Cocoon was just the thing in the sky that she fought against. So she's just as in the dark as the characters, as the rest of the characters, despite being positioned vastly differently than them. Whereas the revelation that Vanille does in fact have all of her memories and is just having a hard time dealing with that, is just love. I love that, like, ticking time bomb, right? That ticking time bomb of, like, you got 6 characters. One of them knows what's going on, and the other 5 don't. Very, very, very cool.
Vanille, of the characters are normal.
But one of them could reveal a big plot twist at any time. Yeah, and also just, like, I actually started to come around to Vanille. I think she's a good character.
I was joking mostly when I said Saz was the last good character to reveal his deal. I like Vanille, but I am going to make fun of her.
Yeah, I think the jury's still out on her, I'll say. But there's definitely a lot more complexity there for sure, right? I don't know if that explains why she's been as dumb as she is. Although maybe it's when you're faced with an absolutely impossible moral and ethical and political and strategic and tactical dilemma where you don't know what's going on, you don't know what to do with the information that you have, and you don't know what you want or what anyone else wants or how to fix anything, maybe that causes your actions to be a little incoherent, you know? Maybe that's why she is the way she is, because she's like, I don't know what she looked at she looks at the entire plot and the entire her life and everything she's been involved in and all the memories that she knows and the facts that she has, and she says either the guy from Shinmu or the guy from Omicron the Nomad Soul, I can't remember which thing I'm referencing here, and she says, I don't know what to do with this.
I remember us having fun with that line. I believe it was Omicron the Nomad Soul.
I think it's Omicron. Sam, in the game Omicron the Nomad Soul, the first game by David Cage, it's actually good, unlike every other David Cage game. It's it's like a walk around adventure game. And if you have an item in your hand and you're doing an adventure game thing where you use item on thing, but it's like not the correct thing, he just says, I don't know what to do with this. And he says it with a very particular cadence that we've always found funny.
That's great.
Anyway, that's all I got. I thought that there was some really good shit this week.
Yeah, I am playing on the PS3, so I can't take screenshots. And I remember something popping up and being like, oh, that's hilarious. I should bring it up. And I do not remember what it was. I do remember the little mini game where you have to find Chocobo Chick. Every time the camera shows you exactly where to go, except for the last one, it shows you the fucking cart again, and it's not even close to the cart. But if you go by the cart, everyone has like, oh my god, look at that cute little Chocobo dialogue, all the NPCs. So I wasted a good 15 minutes trying to, because again, the camera sucks and your positioning sucks. And so I was like, maybe it's around here and I'm just not getting the button prompt. And it was bad.
Hunting in a game that controls this bad is not fun.
I honestly have a reassessment, I think, of this game's level design, which is that I'd forgotten that the game controls like ass for a few weeks now. You know why? Because when all you do is run forward in a straight line hallway, you don't notice that the game controls like ass. So actually, it's only when you're in a more open environment that you can explore freely to talk to NPCs that you notice. So maybe the game's everything is even more of a hallway than usual design. Maybe that was level designers reacting to the fact that the game controlled like shit. And they're like, you know what? Anytime we're in an area where you actually have to look around and interact with your environment and put some thought into your emotions, it sucks. So let's just make sure we have as little of this as possible.
I noticed something very funny about the level design. I noticed that organic spaces organic spaces on the whole are very linear, and manufactured spaces are much more open, which is the opposite of real life. Like if you're in a forest, if you're in the sunlit waterscape, if you're in the Gap or Whitewood, it is a straight line. If you're on the Palamecia, if you're in a theme park, it's real open.
That's a very, very good point. Yeah, it's 100% true throughout the whole game. Maybe it's because if you're in it, think about from the artist perspective. If you're in an outdoor or an organic or natural environment, they want to do a lot more with the graphics. But you can really only do that much with the graphics if it's relegated to the background. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, we don't want the player to actually have to deal with this, so you'll just run in a line and look at the pretty things. Whereas if your environment is just pathways and walkways, well, sure, fucking go crazy, man. I hadn't thought about it before, but actually there's some level design this time around. When that part where you're outside and there's all those crisscrossing walkways, and you get to pick which ones you go on, and you actually are going to be picking a route based on where the enemies are and stuff. I hadn't even thought about it at the time, but in retrospect, it actually was very good.
Yeah. I also really liked the little bit level design, a lot of big graphics of the huge ass bridges that you get to make when you're going to go purge a primarch, and you press the button and they're like,
yep.
That's fucking cool.
That big room is pretty cool.
I like how, for me, that room, considering that it's unlike every other room in the game, you pretty much can't skip those battles. Because, and also the fact that I didn't make a beeline because I had to go and get all the treasure chests. That one giant room took about as long as the rest of the chapter combined. So it's neat that you have this big chapter where 50% of it is going through hallways and walkways and being outside of the plane and being in a prison cell area and being in all these different locations. And then the back half of it is literally you're in a giant fucking chasmic room. You're at the top bottom, spend the next hour getting down there. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I spent a long time in that room because I had to get all the items.
Also notable that I just have a very strong memory of this area. When I think about FF13, that's the room I think about, like, even before we got here again. So it actually stuck in my brain, unlike almost all of this. I also think it's stuck in my brain because I'm pretty sure you go there twice. I'm pretty sure at the end of the game, when you literally go fight the final boss, you go through this room again.
Maybe so. It's a good.
That helps.
It's a good final boss room. Like, it's a great approaching the bad guy.
It's a big
room.
descent. You know, you're descending down a giant complex staircase thingy towards your eventual goal. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's all I have. What did you have, Bernard?
I don't really have anything that we haven't already covered. I weaved some of mine into my notes, and y'all have already talked about a lot of stuff, and I've jumped in with my stuff that's relevant to y'all's stuff. So, yeah, I don't think I have any more to add.
No. So,
one more.
Go ahead.
So we already know Dodge loves chocobos. Bernard already said that. But I do believe it subtly hinted that the reason Saz has a chocobo that lives in his hair is because his son wanted him to have one. It's cute.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, my damn kid wanted a dog, and now I have the dog, and also it lives inside of my afro.
Yeah. Well, you know, when a dad doesn't want to get a pet, the dad ends up loving the pet.
That's true. That's true. That's exactly probably what happened here.
I did remember something that bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
When Sarah turned into a crystal, and when we see Vanille as a crystal, it's very high graphics. When Dodge turns into a crystal, they literally just put his model in a transparent crystalline shape. That really bothers me. Character. Yeah, and it's like, this is one of the most important things that's happened so far in this game. I feel like that should have gotten a fancy
FMV.
I feel like that. I don't even know if a fancy FMV. It could have still flashed and been the crystal model, but I feel like the crystal model should have been better.
Yeah, you know what? I hadn't thought about that, but you're totally right.
Like, I hate to be like, this one detail in the game that they choose to not focus on is the game's bad because of it and that kind of thing. But I feel like this is an important thing.
Yeah.
And they could have spent a little less. They could have made one less tree in Sunlit Waterscape and spent that time making Dodge Crystal.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that'll do it for the week. Next week we are probably only playing chapter 10 because chapter 11 is the big one. And
I was thinking, so I think that this chapter is a very obvious end point for, like, I actually think it's good we stopped here because, like, we just had the fake final boss, right? Like, everything about this was set up like a final dungeon. This is a disc 1. This is the end of disc 1. I don't know what happens next. I think it might just be like, then the characters have some plot stuff to transition them into chapter 11. I was thinking do chapter 10 and then just like part of chapter 11.
Yeah.
Actually, would you mind a very minor spoiler?
Go for it.
We get our final Eidolon like 30 minutes or an hour into chapter 11. So that could be a stopping point.
Yeah.
After the final character gets their Eidolon.
I'm feeling like chapter 10 alone is not going to be enough.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's about as long as chapter 9.
Yeah, so I'm excited to get to chapter 11. So yeah, I think that would probably be a good stopping place to plan on, and if we get there and we want more, we can do more.
Yeah. And again, I've played this game, so I feel like that actually. So as Bernard doesn't remember it. I feel the way that chapter 11 is. I feel like that's a pretty reasonable way to do it.
Nope.
So the stopping point, if we don't change it, since we can go ahead and at least attempt to give the listeners a stopping point, is after our 6th party member gets their Eidolon.
Nice. So yeah, we'll do that, and As always, thank you to everyone who has donated on the Ko-Fi to unlock LongCast. And if you want us to finish out this trilogy and play Lightning Returns Final Fantasy XIII, you can head on over to www.rpgbook.club, where all donations go towards unlocking the next season of LongCast. We already have 13.2 unlocked, so we're just trying to close out the trilogy, so head on over there to make us play more games.
I'm so glad that we're getting to play Final Fantasy XIII finally, because I am loving it so much more than I expected.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Me too. Big ups. Yeah.
Yeah, and with how much I'm thoroughly loving this game, and everyone says that 13.2 is everything good about 13, but better. And then everyone says that Lightning Returns is way different, but still awesome. I'm like hella excited.
Yeah, imagine how good the games people like are.
I meant to ask this earlier, but forgot. And we don't need to talk about this in depth, just real quick. What party did you use for Bartandalus?
I actually, so you start out Palamecia with Lightning, Fang, and Hope. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, you can't put Snow in the party, I don't think.
Yeah, the whole time he's just like, let's go, guys. I'm over here.
Yeah. Anyway, so when the party all got together, I was like, Lightning, Fang, and Hope has been working really fucking well for me.
I was tempted to do that myself. It's a good combo.
I looked at what the different saboteurs have, what the different synergists have, and I was like, I really like Lightning, Fang, and Hope. So I stayed with them the whole time.
What did you go with, Sam?
Those three are the three that I grinded to do the boss wrong last week, so they will probably be my party for the rest of the game, because they have each of their weapons is level 12 and all of their equipments are level star. So
wow. I went with Lightning, Hope, Vanille.
Ooh, interesting.
Which is an interesting one. Lightning with these two fucking kids. It's
triple medic though.
Exactly, which I never actually used triple medic, but it still gives you a lot of variety because you can do 2 medics plus something else, right? It's an interesting combo. It's because Hope's buffs are just protect and shell, and Vanille's debuffs are just deprotect and deshell, and I think those are great. Like, why get fancy when you can just hit them and do a lot of damage, you know? Yeah. Frankly. And other stuff about them. Also, the fact that you can do Ravager. Yeah. That's really good. You can't do that if you have Fong in the party, right? Triple Trouble or whatever. But anyway, it's good, and because the final boss was really giving me trouble, and I spent literally every single gil and item that I had buffing up their equipment only. All of their weapons are like level 1 billion, and everyone else is bullshit. So I'm probably stuck with these guys for a while. Sorry, Snow. You didn't get used a single time this chapter.
Yeah, that's... If we got a Zodiac job version of this game, like... something I feel would need to be done about, like, even just the drop rate of the credit chips or something, because like it's expensive to level up people's stuff, and it's super powerful to level up their equipment.
We are going to do something about the crafting system, folks. It's not with our people. It's not with it. We are going to do something about it.
Yeah, it's like something there should be tweaked, because right now it's like me and Maddie both are basically stuck with this party forever because it's way too expensive to sub somebody else in.
Yep.
But
yeah, I was actually thinking earlier about something that would be interesting if they did a Zodiac Age style massive rework of this game, but now I can't remember what it was.
Yeah,
sorry.
My thought about this is normally I'm anti respecing in games, role playing games. Like, what's the point of making important decisions if you can just undo them. But given that this game's character growth systems, I think, aren't very well designed and are flawed, the Caesarium's kind of stupid. A way you could cushion it being stupid is to let you respec, maybe at certain intervals, at certain points, or something like that. That would be nice. It's kind of like when they changed FF1, where you can just buy all 100 potions at once from the store. It's like, look, there's a deeper game design issue here that you need to buy 100 potions, but you know what? Just softening the blow by making it not take so long is fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could totally redesign the Caesarium and replace it with something good, or you could just let me refinagle it, because boy, if you build it in a weird way, you regret it.
Yeah, like because I have to fill the boxes. I will go and do, like, for lightning, I do commando. And then I do Ravager, and then I do Medic, because that's the list that they're on there. But for some characters, like Hope, he is Ravager, Medic, and I don't really use his Synergist that often. So, like, all the stuff I've put into Synergist is kind of wasted, because I don't actually ever put him there. He's just one of the other two. And it would be great if I could respec and not waste my time on that, et cetera, et cetera. I probably should use Synergist more, so I was maybe a bad
Sam isn't using status spells?
I use them. I just start the battle with them, and then I move on. But I don't, like...
Yeah. They're definitely very contextual, depending on what enemies you're fighting.
But
still, it's a Final Fantasy game where you use the status spells, so...
Yeah, I mean, wow, good on them.
I mean, I'm used to using status spells in Dragon Quest or Shin Megami Tensei, but Final Fantasy?
Get the fuck out of here, yeah.
That's my problem, is my RPG list was mostly Final Fantasies until very recently, and so I don't even it's Final Fantasies and Pokemon, and I only recently realized that status spells were great in Pokemon, because in the single player game, you just want to hit hard and hit fast and all of that jazz.
Mm-hmm.
But I've already said my outro. So for RPG Book Club Longcast, I have been Sam Allman.
I'm David Bernard Hauk.
And I'm Matty Grace Webben.
Ideos amigos.
That's the wrong podcast.
That's the wrong podcast.
Oh, is that what I'll say on the other one?
Yes.
Yes. In The Legend of Heroes, God is named Idios. So we say Idios, Ibigios.
That's cute, actually.
Let me stop crunching on Handicaps beer battered onion rings chips. So that sitting over here just making mouth noises into the microphone so that Tim Rogers can listen to our podcast.
I'm sure he's too busy trying to upload a video to YouTube.
It's so funny how I posted like 5 days ago that we were getting a video of his that day, and YouTube has just been like, well, no.
Yeah,
it's silly. Poor guy. But hey, he's got a dental plan now, so that's what all matters. Look, as long as my man gets to take care of his teeth, he can make however many or few videos he feels like making.